Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Leo, you're going to start us off. The Dion Jordan signing was smart by the 49ers. And Leo, I want you to start this off because you had a very interesting article on this topic just yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, it automatically makes that depth in the defensive line better because you have similar players in Hyder and Blair. They're more of those power rushers, not necessarily the speed like D Ford is. And then you just look at last year, they had guys like Valoga and Zettel having to play major moments for the 49ers. Like Zettel had quite a few Super Bowl snaps and had zero effect on that. Dion Jones, I would imagine, would be much better than what Zettel provided for the team last year. And he was, according to the numbers, the pressure rate last season than what Zettel was. So it automatically makes them better. They don't have to worry so much about D Ford. Obviously, there's a downgrade between D Ford and Dion Jordan, but it's just a lot better options than they had last season.
Agree 100%, and I'm just happy they didn't pick up Ziggy Ansah. I know everyone likes to fall in love with that name, but what's the best ability out there? Availability, right? And they already have their hands full worrying about when's this guy D4 going to get injured? And I know everyone talks about, well, he's healthy now. That's what everyone says every offseason about this guy. It's never a matter of if, but when he's going to get injured. And I know it's not Marcus Golden the way Nick's been hammering the table for the last two or three months. But I totally always agreed with them. Maybe not Golden because he might have been a little higher. I don't know how much the Giants got from him. They probably got him for
$5.5 million.
Yeah, that was a little too much for personally, I think, for the Niners at that point for a depth player. But they did need some depth. I'm glad for Dion Jordan that he's signing up because he was decent with the Raiders last year in a rotation role after he came in mid to late season. So totally agree with this. Good. Now you got more depth in the case of any COVID things that could happen to keep players off or injuries. Just it's always good to keep that front always fresh and consistently flowing.
Yeah, to go back to Marcus Golden a little bit. So he had this weird clause in his contract where if he went unsigned throughout the entire offseason, his rights reverted back to the Giants at like 110% pay increase or something like that. So he's making $5.5 million this year. But it makes me think if because the key word for me is speed. They needed a speed rusher behind D Ford because they had other pass rushers last year. But once D Ford's speed wasn't on the field, the defense was not the same. So that was the big thing for me is finding a speed rusher. Dion Jordan has that speed, but I wish it was Marcus Golden. It makes you think if you were to sign a guy who was hasn't been signed 3-4 months into the offseason, and he has an opportunity to play on a championship contender, which is loaded talent around him. I'm sure you could have signed him for the $3.5-4 million range. I don't know what the Dion Jordan number is, but overall, I'm happy with the signing. They got that speed that they needed behind Ford. So yeah, good signing. Low risk, high reward, similar to Jordan. But more of a position of need. They needed it behind Ford.
I mean, it never hurts to sign a guy that's very low risk financially, but maybe a high risk with his behavior and substance abuse problems. He's been suspended a couple times, but getting him back with the Niners, having his former collegiate teammate Eric Armstead with him. The Niners always have to have two ducks on their line at all times, and they feel that with Dion Jordan. And maybe he'll be able to not necessarily find his 2013, 2012 success, but be able to just come in, do a little more than what Anthony Zettel did last year. And I think that's all they're really after from him.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with this. I'm gonna buy this. I feel that Dion Jordan was the right choice. When it first came out that they were thinking about him or Ziggy Ansah, I was thinking, well, they got to go with Ziggy Ansah because Ansah at least was good at one point and Dion Jordan never was. But Ansah is not good anymore. He was a total bust for the Seahawks last year. They needed him. They had no pass rush, and he gave them nothing. And I think he's probably done. The thing that's interesting about Dion Jordan, he missed 2 years. He's relatively fresh for a 30-year-old. And last year with the Raiders, I believe he had 2 sacks in 7 games. So that's something. Am I wrong? He had 2 sacks in some amount of games.
I think like 3 or something like that. But yeah 2 or 2.5, something like that. But yeah, he definitely was productive in that defense that actually needed pass rushing. So the fact you stand up for a defensive front that was arguably pretty bad in the Raiders, that says someone for sure.
No doubt. So I think the Niners made the right choice between the two. And as Nick said, I mean, he really does fill a need. Every time D Ford was out, the Niners had no one who would replace him. They don't need a great speed rusher. They just need a speed rusher who's better than, say, Cassius Marsh. Is Dion Jordan better than Cassius Marsh?
I would think so.
Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, Cassius Marsh is on a team and Dion Jordan wasn't for a while. What do you think, Maverick?
Well, he's not as good at roundhouse kicks, so
no.
let's get that.
Those are some really nice roundhouse kicks.
The Karate Kid, yeah.